Hi everybody, I'm Nakas Evelyn, I'm a radiographer and welcome to my channel Evna Lifestyle, and let's do this. Alright, so today's video is about x-rays, understanding x-rays, what x-rays are and how they are produced and how they interact with an object of the body, right? So this information is really important for you guys who are radiographers or studying radiography and who are thinking of doing radiography, and not just those, but also for you who is not even a radiographer or planning to do radiography, but just having that information when you go to the x-ray department or the radiology department, you have some ideas about x-rays and all that, so that you get to be less nervous and all that. And also maybe you just get to have a bit of information when somebody talks about x-rays or somebody mentioned about x-rays, you have some ideas about what x-rays are, right? Okay, so x-rays are just a photon, right? They are just photons. So if I say photons, I mean photon is a bunch of energy. It's just something that has a lot of energy, right? It's like, I don't know how I can say this, but a bunch of energy, like a lot of energy which is equipped together, right? It's equipped together and it can penetrate in an object, right? So this is the production of x-rays. I'm not really going to talk about the component of the x-ray tube and all that, but there is a machine. That machine that you see, it has a tube inside which has two things that produces x-rays, that helps in the production of x-rays, right? So there is a cathode and there is an anode. So the cathode has what we call a filament inside. It's just like a thin wire in there, a very tiny wire which is in the cathode part. So when that filament is heated up, right? When it's heated up, it will produce electrons. Electrons are negatively charged, right? They are negatively charged. So when they are, they get excited and all that, that gets to have that energy and they get to be pushed away from the cathode going to the anode, right? So there is a short distance between the cathode and the anode. So when they are pushed from the cathode going to the anode, they reach the anode side. Okay, so the electrons will reach on the cathode part. When they reach on the cathode part, there will be interaction. Those electrons will be now wanting to replace the electrons which are in the atoms of the anode side, right? So when one electron is replaced by the other electron, that kind of process of replacing, removing the other electron and replacing the other one produces a lot of energy. And whilst that is happening, the energy will be produced and it will come out with high velocity at a high rate, which will be produced as an x-ray. Remember, the x-ray is just a photon, the photon which is the energy. So it will be produced from that x-ray tube and it will go direct to the focused object which is in front of the x-ray tube, right? So now we are done with the x-ray tube. We are done with how the production of x-ray is done in the x-ray tube. So the x-rays will come out from that tube and they will go direct to an object. So the x-rays are going to be put in one alignment, right? Because the radiographer has done the collimations, they've done all those kind of preparations, the KVs and the MAS and all that, which I'm going to explain to you guys in another video. So the radiographer is going to collimate, like directing the x-rays at the focused area, right? So when they travel in that area, they travel in that kind of focused area or the alignment, they'll reach the object. So when they reach the object, three things will happen, right? Three things are going to happen in your body or the patient's body. So the x-rays can be absorbed, they can be scattered, or they can penetrate, right? So if I talk about the absorption, I'm talking about the photoelectric effects, in the other words, the photoelectric effects. And if I'm talking about the scattering, I'm talking about the Compton effect or Compton scattering. Then the penetration, I'm talking about the pair production. So the absorption, there are those electrons which in the human body there are atoms, right? Atoms. So the cells, molecules, then atoms. So those atoms are the tiniest things, or tiniest, what should I call them? Just an atom in the body, which are very tiny in your body or my body, right? So the electrons or the energy or the X-ray or the photon, which is going to reach in the body, I'm starting with the absorption part. So they will interact with an atom. So for these ones, the absorption really it's really interact with the K shell, the L shell, right? So the orbits, the atom has the nuclear inside. It has a nuclear and a proton inside. The nuclear is or the neutron is zero charge, then the proton is positively charged, right? Then it has the orbits around the nuclear, which has the electrons. Electrons are negatively charged. So that energy which is coming from the exotube will interact with the L shell and the K shell, the M shell, because we're talking about the absorption, right? So the absorption only happens with the outer shells. So when the electron goes to that electron, the atom goes to the electron which is in that atom in the human body or the patient's body, when they interact in that way, it will not really it will give out its energy. It will give out its energy to that electron, and it doesn't give out any image, right? It just gives out the energy to, it's just surrender the energy to the electron, to the atom or in the body. So it surrenders the energy to the body and all that. That's about the absorption. So I'm going to share with you guys how it looks on the image, but for now let me just explain on these three things which happen in the human body or the patient's body. So the absorption is done. So the electron will give out that energy, will give out its energy to the atom, and end of the story for that. Then so that's the photoelectric, right? So when the second one is about the scattering. So for the scattering, this is also called the Compton, right? So for this one, it will also interact with the inner shell, not really the nuclear shell, but the inner shell. So when it interacts with the electrons or in the inner shell, for it will give out the energy, but it will still remain with some of the energy just to move out from that electron, from that orbit or from that atom, and it scatters in different directions. Not really scattering, not really having one direction, like going to the image receptor, not really like giving out the image and all that, but it will scatter its energy in the body, right? So that's the second one. Then the third one, this is the pair production or the penetration. So for this one, it goes direct. It has a lot of energy. It has full energy, so it will go direct to the nuclear. It will go direct to the proton. That's why it will make it point. So it will go direct in the inner shell, and from there, because it has energy, so it will knock out the nuclear inside there, and it will go in two different ways, which will bring out the image, right? So now that I've explained the three things which happens in the body, there is energy which is going to remain in the body, which I'm going to explain in the next video about how the X-rays, that energy which is in the body, how it leaves the body and other things, if it does or if it doesn't, and what happens next, right? So that energy now has come out from a human body, the third one, which is penetrating. So now on the image, when you look at the image, in X-rays there are only three colors. So there is only black, then there is grayish, then there is white. So when you check on the X-rays, you'll see there will be black, there will be white, and there will be some kind of grayish in some areas, right? So those three colors, they present the three things that I'm just from talking about the how X-rays interact in the human body. So these three colors, the one which is going to show white, the one which is going to show very white, like very white, is the bone, right? These are the denser parts in a human body, like they are really dense, so they are going to absorb a lot of energy, right? So for example, just from giving you an example, the bones. So the bones are going to absorb a lot of energy, which means the image is going to appear white. While there is a bone, it's going to appear white, right? Then the other one about the scattering is going to show grayish, because a part of the energy was absorbed, and only half, should I say, of the energy managed to escape out from that area or the atom. So it will show grayish somehow, right? Then the other one, which is the pair production or the penetration, it will show black. And for that one, for example, we're talking about the lungs, right? So the lungs are going to appear black because they are not really that denser. They are in between the denser and the less dense. So it's going to have that energy is going to penetrate through them, and they will show black. For those ones which are scattering, they are going to show grayish. For example, for that one, is the soft tissue. So for example, if you have the forearm, you will see the bone which is denser, it's going to appear white. Then there's a soft tissue around the bone which is going to appear grayish, meaning the energy scattered. Half of the energy was absorbed and half of the energy managed to escape from that area. All right, so what I'm trying to say is this. What I'm trying to explain to you guys, I'm going to give an example. So this is my notebook. So my notebook so I'm going to take this as an object, or as a patient, should I say. All right, so we are going to take this as an object. Definitely is an object. So we have this part. So my notebook has this part. There's this hard part. It's very hard, like it can't really even bend that much. In fact, not even that much, it can't bend. So this is the hard part, and we are going to take this part as the denser part, right? It's very dense. As a denser part, then it also has this other one. This one is kind of a bit thick. It's thick compared to this one. So this one is denser compared to this one, and this one is less dense compared to this one, right? Then there is this part now. This is very thin, very thin. So we have three areas here. So there's this one, the denser part, the dense part, and the less dense part, right? So you can imagine this in the body of the patient or your body, right? So if the x-rays come, like those energy which are from the x-ray tube are coming, like they have to interact with this. So this part is going to it's when it reaches this part, since it's denser, the energy will not really pass through this, because it's very hard and it's really dense. So the energy won't pass through this, right? So a lot of energy is going to be absorbed in here. It's going to be absorbed and it won't reach this part. And it's been that it won't reach this part, it's going to show white on an x-ray. By the way, let me mention this. So an x-ray is just a shadow of a patient, right? So for example, let me say this. So this is my hand, right? This is the notebook. I don't know if you can see that shadow which is just behind in front of this, right? So there is a shadow there which is being created by my hands. So the x-ray is just the shadowing of the x-ray image is just the shadow of an object or the patient. That's how it's created, right? So it's like when you put your hand here, for example, you put the hand here, then you get maybe a spray paint, you try to spray here and all that. When you remove the hand, it means that the spray paint didn't really penetrate my hand because it's denser. When I remove, it's going to show the shadowings of where the x-ray paint penetrated. Definitely it's just in these sides of my fingers, and where it did not penetrate, it will just show the shadowing, like the fingers, the palm and all that. That's how x-rays are as well, right? So it's just going to show the shadowing of the object or the patient. So getting back to our story, so this thing is really harder, it's denser, so it's going to show, it's not really going to have a lot of energy penetrating in this. It's going to be absorbed, therefore it will show white on the x-ray image. Then this one, the second one, which is dense, not really denser but dense. So remember, this is denser, this is dense. So this one, which is dense, is going to have scatter. So scatter radiation is what's going to happen in here. So half of the energy will be absorbed and half of the energy is going to penetrate. So meaning this part is going to show grayish on the x-ray, right? On the x-ray image, it's going to show grayish, and half of the energy is already absorbed, and the other energy has scattered, right? Guys, hopefully you're getting this. Then the third one, which is now this one is less dense, like it doesn't have density, right? It has, but it's really, really thin. So definitely the energy is going to penetrate through this and it's going to show black. So this is what happens in the human body and with the x-rays. So x-rays are going to, some are going to penetrate, some are going to be absorbed, and some are going to be scattered. And the image which is going to be produced is just the shadowing of an object over the patient. And so all these three things have got their own characteristics, and you'll be able to interpret those three energies, or three types of energy interaction in the human body. You are going to interpret them, and they're going to help you in giving out a diagnosis or anything. Because, for example, if we say lungs, right? So lungs are supposed to appear black on the x-ray. That's the shadowing of the lungs on an x-ray. And then they're supposed to appear black because the energy has penetrated, right? So if there is a disease in the lungs, for example, there is maybe what can you say? Maybe there is tuberculosis, right? So the bronchi are going to be inflamed and all that, and since they are going to be inflamed, there will be that density in the lungs, the different density, right? It's supposed to be less dense, but because of the inflammation of those bronchioles, bronchi and all that, it's going to bulge, and it will have that different density. And when the x-rays interact with that lung, it will absorb some of, so instead of absorption, scattering is the one which is going to occur, right? So it's going to absorb some of the energy, and some of the energy is going to scatter, and the image will come out, the shadowing will come out, as in it has some of the kind of like grayish inside the lung. Instead of it being black, like black, it's going to show some kind of like whitish thing, grayish thing, and all that, like the dots, the infiltration, right? And that will help you in giving out the diagnosis. So understanding the image of the x-ray image and all that, you first have to understand how they interact with matter, or how they interact with the patient's body or an object, right? So this is what I thought of sharing with you guys about the x-rays, understanding the x-rays, so that you will be able to understand what really goes on in the department. Or when you go in a radiology department, they tell you, okay, we have to do this, you have to remove these kind of things are not necessary. You get to understand that, like, okay, so this. And by the way, the x-rays don't really take time in passing through the human body, right? And you won't even be able to feel like, okay, ooh, the x-rays have passed through my body. They are not really noticeable. You won't notice, and you won't feel anything. You won't even know. They'll just tell you that you're done, like it's done in milliseconds. Done, the examination is done, right? So hopefully this was really helpful, guys, and you can just let me in the comments if I've left some of the information, or I lost you somewhere, or you didn't really understand the concept and everything. You can just let me in you can let me know in the comment section, then I will be glad to help you and to share more information. So thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, to ring the bell as well, so that you'll get to be notified of each and every video which is uploaded. And thank you so much for you guys who have subscribed. Shout out to you all. Thank you so much. Welcome to the family, and let's just do this together. Thank you. See you in the next episode.